Hello, hello. It has been a minute. I'm telling you, it's been crazy. Life, summer, people are back in the swing of things. So we're back. We're back. We're back. And I'm excited about it. Today, we are going to be talking about all the things real estate. And it's kind of crazy. For months, we kind of been watching signs in our market. We've had inventory that have been rising. Buyers have been hesitant. Prices have been being cut. And it looks like things are shifting a bit. And we could be in for kind of a tipping point. But it's one of those things that sometimes we don't see that until we're past it. So we're going to talk about it. And I thought the perfect person to talk about this with is my friend Matt. But before we get started, I want to make sure if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from, because it always helps so that we know kind of, are you local or are you not? If you're not, great, let us know. And two, if you got questions, put them in the chat, because that's what we're here for. We're here to answer any of your questions that you have. So, Matt, how you doing?
Good. How are you? And we love questions because it's just always fun to engage with
I know.
your
We got
fans.
Omega.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, hello, Omega Royale in Sydney, Australia. I'm glad you're watching.
Oh, wow. Super cool.
I know.
Love it.
I know who you are. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad you're watching. So yeah, I mean, summer is over and now we're back in the swing of things. And even summer, this is what I have to say. I've been thinking about this. Let's see. We've got somebody else from Columbus, Ohio, but spent 35 years in Scottsdale. Now I'm renting and thinking about moving back to the East Valley. Well, I know somebody who can help you. I don't know. But
Columbus is not a cheap place to live either, from what I understand.
No. Oh gosh, now I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. We'll keep going. It'll come back.
Sorry. Yeah.
What's that?
Look, squirrel.
I know. Gosh darn it. It's so hard. It's so hard sometimes.
Anyways, through the summer, things are crazy.
Oh, this is what I was going to say. See, I knew it would come back. I got to hand it to all the people that have been watching all of my videos. You guys took my advice and everybody came this summer. It was so crazy. Right when everybody thinks that nobody comes here in the summertime, they all came in the summer and they all visited me. And I was so happy. It was great to see everybody. We were out looking at real estate in the heat and it's just what we do. But I always tell everybody, if you really want to know what it's like to live in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, you got to come during the summer. Come when it's hot. And let me tell you, they did.
Yeah, it's funny. I had multiple clients that moved from other states and thinking, okay, they're like, it's, whatever.
Right.
I think so many people are willing to sacrifice those couple months for like what we're going to have in 2 months,
Right.
Because once we get to that point, we're like, why would you live anywhere else, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? It's like as soon as the weather turns, everyone looks at one and goes, and this is why we live here.
Right.
We're almost there. I think we're more than halfway, right?
We are. And we could not be, honestly, in a more interesting time in our market where we're seeing like two things just absolutely colliding, right?
I know.
So if we end up on this trajectory with lower rates and buyers with the biggest upper hand they've had so far this year, something's about to give.
It's going to have to. And yeah, we're going to get into it. Should we just dive right into this article? Let's get into it. Okay. So I wanted to bring up this article. This is from the Phoenix Business Journal. So if you're not from here, the message sometimes is still the same, right? But basically the title says, Phoenix home prices poised to drop as inventory surges, analyst says. Now, this analyst is Matt and my good friend Tina. You've heard us talk about her before. So we're going to get into this. It says home prices, just making sure I want to make sure that the right part is up. Home prices in Metro Phoenix are expected to drop within the next 3 to 6 months, according to local analysts. Tina Tambor, senior analyst for the Cromford Report, said the biggest housing story within the next 6 months will be the decline in year-over-year home sale prices. While it's been a buyer's market, in the metro since last November. The window is only going to last so long, she said. You can't have the bottom of the lowest possible prices. Sorry, I'm going to start over. You can't have the bottom of the lowest possible price and a buyer's market. You get one or the other, because by the time the bottom of the market emerges, everybody knows about it. You end up with everybody competing with you on getting that perfect home at that perfect price. Guess what? Prices start going up again. This is something that we've been talking about because everyone's been excited. Oh my gosh, it's a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market. But the other funny part is that we've also said, what's really funny about the buyer's market is that buyers don't love to buy in a buyer's market because they keep saying, oh no, what if it goes lower? And the reality about this is you don't know when it's hit the bottom until you're like 3 to 6 months out of it.
Until you're past it, always.
Right.
It's like buying a stock at the perfect time.
Right. So this is why we always say you can't time the market. So
yeah, of course, the beauty of real estate is just because it's listed at that price doesn't mean you have to offer that price.
Of course, right. Well, and that was a funny thing, right? I've had buyers that have come to look, and their question always is how much over the list price am I going to have to offer? And this has been since last November or even before, when prices were starting to kind of settle and we weren't getting as many multiple offers and all of that. And I would always say to them, I'm like, oh, we're going to be able to negotiate. And sometimes they were surprised.
Yeah.
You know, because they didn't understand that our market was starting to shift then. And again, it was dependent upon the house. I mean, there's a house in my neighborhood right now, went on the market last week, completely remodeled. I mean, it was beautiful. Everything has been touched. And every one of my neighbors started texting me last weekend when it went on the market going, oh my gosh, did you see the price? I can't believe it. Do you think they're going to get it? And I happened to show it last Saturday to another client of mine. And I said, I've been in it. It is stunning. They're going to get their price or very close to it. And it's already under contract. And they have all asked, like, what? I can't believe it went under contract. I'm like, it was done the way that buyers wanted. And that if the houses are done the way that buyers want them done, the finishes, I mean,
right,
and everything's been maintained and, you know, fixed and updated, buyers will pay a hefty price for it. I mean, they're not going to pay an exorbitant, like well over,
right,
but they'll pay.
Right. And we've both seen a lot of, I would call them failed inspections.
Oh gosh.
Over the last 90 days, where you have contractors that really have no business flipping homes.
No.
So, yeah. So if you find the right one where everything is done, then there is a slight premium attached to that for sure.
Yeah.
Right? And I just want to add one thing to the that article, you know, versus most of these YouTubers and, you know, generic people you see on Twitter talking about the United States, is that Tina is a true data analyst. And the way that they're getting that information is they use a proprietary algorithm called the CMI, the Cromford Market Index, where they're looking at like all of these factors, and they have correctly predicted with current indicators, they have currently called out exactly what's going to happen in the market for about 25 years now. Mm-hmm. So they have a very long history of success predicting trends.
My viewers know the Cromford Report well, yes, because I talk about it a lot. But
it's the go-to. Yeah. It's always fun for me when I talk to a young agent who's trying to, you know, make it. And I say, do you use this? Or like, no. I'm like, why are you not? Like, if you want to have expert advice, this is what you should be doing.
Well, I always tell people, I'm like, part of the thing with the Cromford Report is there's so much data in it, yeah, that it's like an education to learn how to use it, because
sure,
not everybody understands the whole thing, and it can get overwhelming. But Adolfo, thank you for joining us from Florida. I hope things are going there well there too. Tim Olson, if sellers are waiting for interest rates to drop, thinking us buyers will jump, I have one recommendation. Don't hold your breath. Lower the price a lot. I get that.
Well, and I think, you know, we've encountered this. I mean, there are some sellers out there that are still, their agents are not informing them we're not in 2021. And they're just failing to recognize they're not breaking the record in the neighborhood anymore.
No.
Their house is worth what it's worth. There's no going over.
I know. And I think that's the tough part. Like you said, we've got somebody that we're dealing with right now, and we couldn't get a deal together because the seller just would not really budge on the price. And the buyer just said, I don't want to do it. And I said, I don't really blame you. So don't. Just
No, and it is, and your question is a great one because something has to give, especially, and we'll get into it, if next week goes like it might in terms of rates, next Fed meeting, all these things. If rates lower, we already know mortgage applications are going to tick up. 6% is the magic number. We've touched it a couple times over the last few years, and we get a influx.
When it's funny because more recently it was 6.5. Like after our rates had been down really, really low and we kind of shot up to like 6.8 and stayed there for a little while, it got to 6.5 and then we saw the mortgage applications kind of shoot up. Now I feel like people are kind of going, okay, 6.5. I don't know that that's low enough for me yet.
Yeah, right. And now we're getting you that range where, you know, I'm on the wholesale side, so we have a lot of, you know, aggressive investors, and, you know, getting like 6.25 to 6 is attainable, 6.25, 6.375 without having to, you know, pay additional costs to buy down. And, you know, throw this in there too. If we're in a market where you might have a seller that's been on market for 90 days, now we throw a buy down on top of that, right? A 1-year buy down, 2-year buy down. How about a 4.375 rate, then 5.375 rate? Again, hoping that there'll be another refinance opportunity, becomes a lot more attractive, and now we're, you know, somewhere at least on a reasonable scale on that affordability index.
Right. And I mean, I think that the buy down can be a great option. You just have to walk into it eyes wide open, because if you go in and you go, okay, you have to qualify for the higher interest rate, but you also have to go in going, okay, I could get this rate buy down for a year and get into like the, you know, 4.5 ish. But if rates don't go down enough for it to make enough, you know, difference for you, you're going to be paying at the higher price.
I agree. And I have several folks right now that are just coming out of that 2-year period.
Yeah.
We're at 6.99. And now we're talking about how do we get them down?
Right.
To that 6.25 level, 6.125. And that's where it starts to, depending on your loan amount, of course.
Right.
Where hopefully we can at least get them back down to a reasonable level.
Right. So Adolfo says, Sean, thanks for the welcome. Of course. What's up with the auctions I have been seeing? I'm wondering, are you talking about the big thing that's out there right now called the zombie foreclosures? I'm wondering. Let me know. And then I'll, if that's it, then I think I can answer your question.
I will tell you, I was helping an agent research using the Cromford report the other day, and he had a client in Buckeye, and it was like a $300,000 price point. And what we have not seen when you go into like looking at active listings, it's always private sellers. And now on the very outskirts, you know, I was like, hey, there are 4 short sales listed. There are 8 REO foreclosures. So, I mean, those are not an auction, but to speak to your point, like the distressed properties, I guess.
Right. So,
yeah, so we are starting to see more of those.
Yeah. So you said no to the zombie foreclosure. So then I'm thinking that you're seeing people that are auctioning their home, but really it's a marketing ploy. That's what I'm thinking that you're talking about. Basically, if a home has been on the market for a long time, or if an agent kind of knows that it's a really unique property and it's probably going to be tough to sell, they can kind of call in this auction company that kind of helps kind of create the buzz. Let me
say they're going to sell your house in 3 days.
Yeah. So they drop the price big time and then have buyer bid against each other at the auction. Yeah. You're saying, yes, that's what you're talking about. So yeah, I mean, those have been around for a while. In all honesty, I think I know one that has ever sold like that. They put reserves on these houses. The auction companies say they don't. They're trying to drop it below the price to create the urgency, to get the buzz, to do all these things. But the reality is, when I've talked to the auction companies, they're trying to get agents and sellers sometimes also to participate in this cost. And it's a lot. It's like $20,000 to $30,000 because they want to get all this video and get all of this this marketing put together, and then next thing you know, you come up and you've got nothing. I mean, in all honesty, I think you would be better off just making sure that you're priced right from the get-go and that the home is in pristine condition and stage well, or something along those lines, or something more along those lines, so that you can get real buyers' eyes on it. I'm told you it's an Australian thing. I don't know. I don't know that it's an Australian thing. Omega Royale, you might be able to help us out with that one.
The creating fake demand concept has been around forever. Right?
A long time. And I've not seen it work. They might get a lot of eyes on it. It's the same thing. I was just talking with somebody else, sellers that, what are you doing for me? What are you doing for me to get my house, looked at? And some of these agents are paying, $10 a day or something like that to run Facebook ads so that they can come back to the seller and say, look at all this data, look at all the eyes I'm getting on your listing. But the problem is that they're not eyes of the right buyer. So they'll say that they kind of are, but I've looked at it and it's not, right. It's not what it's supposed to. It's appeasing the seller to say, look, I've been able to expose your house to all of these people. But if you don't get a buyer out of that, does it matter? So it's tricky, especially in these times, because listing agents specifically are being constantly put, that question in front of them. What are you doing? How many people are seeing this? Where are you putting it? What's going on? And the reality is you do have to get it out there. You've got to get in front of the right people, and there's ways to do it. But sometimes the data that they're showing you to say, look at all these eyes that I'm getting on it, aren't really the eyes that you as the seller really want or need. But that's just my 2 cents. All right, let's get back to this article because there's some good stuff in here. So Connor Devereaux, Director of Market Analytics for CoStar Group and Homes.com, has seen evidence that Phoenix is shifting towards a more buyer-friendly housing market. The for-sale home inventory in Phoenix is climbing quickly, up 27% year over year to 24,300 listings in July of 2025. I just was on, obviously I'm on it every day, but I was on today and it's already at like 23,000.
Sorry, how much?
Like 23,000. So it's dropped like 1,000.
Okay, 23,000. Okay.
Yeah. But again, 24,000 listings in the grand scheme of things for our market isn't a lot.
No, it's not. But isn't some of that, Sean, like seasonal, like especially luxury? Some of those listings might tend to go away in August.
Well, so in the luxury market, what happens is that during the summertime, that's why you'll see a gigantic cancellation rate in the summertime. But then if you start breaking it down by price point, you'll realize that it's like homes that are over $2 million and plus. Those homes have kind of come off the market because those sellers go, well, my buyer's not here, so I'm just going to take it off the market, let it rest, and then put it back on.
My buyer's at the Hotel Del in San Diego for the month. Yeah,
pretty much.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So that market, that marked the largest number of active listings for the month of July in over a decade, and was nearly double the level seen in July of 2023. Well, that's not hard to do because we had so little.
Right, but still, I mean, we're going pre-pandemic, so that is still a little eye-opening, right? We're not talking about 2019, 20, right?
I know. So for sale inventory rose the quickest in Camelback East Village, an area of Central Phoenix that includes Arcadia Light, and part of the 51 corridor. Following behind that were Buckeye and Surprise, which saw a number of for sale homes increase by 140 more than the compared year. The thing though about Buckeye and Surprise, they have a ton of new builds out there, a ton. So you're either going to see some of those being put on the market or put into MLS, so that increases the inventory. But what I've been seeing home builders do is they'll put maybe one of every floor plan into MLS. They don't want to flood MLS with all of them, but yeah, that area of the market. I'll show you the Cromford Market Index in a second, because that Buckeye Surprise area, those are where we're really in a buyer's market.
Yeah, and I don't have any data, but just from talking to some agents that have friends in the industry, is they knew a couple people. This was just last month. that are builder associates that have been laid off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think, especially when you're looking at the outskirts, and what these builders do is they spend millions of dollars on these banks of interest rate reductions, so that when you see that 4.99 rate or something, I mean, believe me, it's cutting into their margin. And I'm sure some of these guys, they're just trying to keep the lights on, and have been for the last couple of years. So at some point, that probably has to end. And then maybe at some point will be a 4.99. But in the meantime, I mean, there's just no way these guys are making the margins that they were making, a few years ago.
No. So Omega Royale says auctions are very common in Sydney, Australia. So apparently, maybe it is an Australia thing. Thank you for that. All right. So the increased supply of available homes provides potential buyers in Metro Phoenix with more options and negotiating power, Devereaux says. The median sales price of Phoenix homes was up 1.4% annually in July to $448,000, according to Homes.com data. This is still lower than the median home price of $455,000 in December of 2024. That rate of growth lags both the overall U.S. and the CPI inflation. Home prices are now below the level seen entering the year, and Phoenix could remain an underperformer for the rest of or over the near term. According to the S&P, the Case-Shiller Index released on August 26th, Metro Phoenix showed a barely noticeable 0.06% drop in home prices in June. But do you have it memorized what she says, what Tina says about the Cromford report? Or I'm sorry, about
the median?
No, the Case-Shiller. It's 3 months behind.
Yes, it's usually it's a quarter. It's usually a quarter behind.
It's a quarter behind, and it's like three. So they're giving. I'm always aware, because we have the Cromford Market Index. I do not look at the Case-Shiller. I just don't, because it's so outdated. It's 3 months of lagging data.
Yeah, and one other thing you brought up earlier that's interesting is people obviously confuse medians and averages. And if you think about, hey, well, the median went up 1.48%. Well, okay, but when you break down our market and you see where has there been the most increase in sales, it's in luxury. Mm-hmm. So when you have more of those luxury sales and you take the sale, all the sales, the one right in the middle, it's really no surprise that it's 1.5% higher.
No, well, because honestly, right now, our luxury market is very strong. Right now, and it's all based on the stock market.
I did an open house in Arcadia. I don't know if you call it light or proper. There's now like 9 different phrases for Arcadia.
Right.
But it was a couple that built some spectacle on Camelback Mountain, and they were selling this absolutely beautiful house for 2.4, nestled away in a neighborhood. And it was Sunday, 115 degrees, and I just sat with this agent 12 to 2 p.m. And we had like 8 different couples come through there.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, wow. Like, if it's a beautiful house in the right area, luxury over 2, there's people that are looking at those.
Oh yeah, there are. All right, so we're gonna go back here. Other high growth Sunbelt markets in Texas and Florida already are contending with a sustained softening in home prices, and Phoenix could be in the early stages of a similar trend. This market shift comes at a time when mortgage rates are hovering around 6.58%, and home builders continue to offer incentives, such as rate buydowns, to help bring down the overall cost of the home. But home builders will only offer these incentives for so long. When mortgage interest rates drop below 6%, the rate buydown incentives will disappear, said Charlie Freericks, president of the Arizona region for Howard Hughes, which is headquartered in the Houston area. So Charlie Freericks, just as a side note, used to work here in the Scottsdale area for DMB, which was is a gigantic developer, and I worked for them for 10 years, so I know Charlie. Friedrichs, who is planning a November grand opening for the first village of the 37,000-acre Terravelis master plan community in Buckeye, said home builders are looking forward to entering the rate buy-down incentive, which will allow them to sell at better margins. At this point, all of this points to a window for the home buyer, which will be closing soon. If we go into a balanced market in the next few months, the first thing to go away are the incentives, Tina says, which
Yeah. And then what's interesting is if you've looked at when we've hit that bottom, it's happened several times, and that window has shut. The last couple of times, it's shut fairly quickly.
yeah.
Like last December, for example.
Yeah. I'm going to switch over because I want to.
Yeah, interesting. Like we don't know the true health of some of these home builders, right?
Right.
Like maybe they're like at the point where like we have to stop doing this, period.
Well, and I was told that by an agent that works for Taylor Morrison, earlier this year. She said to me, she said, buyers really need to be careful because as soon as these rates turn, and these builders can take away these incentives, they're gone. They are gone. And the other thing that people need to know too is that the incentives and the flexibility of each one of these builders, if you're looking at new construction, is really going to depend on the strength of that community. Because I have a buyer that just closed on a Taylor Morrison home out in Surprise, closed like 2 weeks ago. And they were having a hard time. They couldn't sell their house in California. So we had to extend the contingency period, which of course they told us they weren't going to do, but they did anyway, because I asked the sales agent, I said, are they, how are you guys selling a lot? She's like, well, and so I pushed harder for my client. I just said, look, they really want to buy this, but we just need a little bit more time. We're working on it. And we got it extended and they were able to close. Then I have another buyer that's buying a new build with Taylor Morrison, also in a community that's a little bit more active and more people coming in to buy it, all that. And he's got a contingency as well. And they're not as willing to do what they did for the other clients.
Yes. I've had a couple of those rescue ones this summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, hey, can you close the deal in 2 weeks because they can't sell their house or it falls out of contract very quickly. In some states, of course, it's a lot more difficult to sell homes, like New Jersey, for example, where it's like a long process.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be interested to see who starts really reining things like that back.
Yeah. So here, I like to show this when we're here because this shows you the Cromford Market Index. So you can see that you can see where Paradise Valley is, and just so I remind everybody, if you're over 110 on this number, the Cromford Market Index, you're in a seller's market. Between 90 and 110, and you're in a balanced market, and anything below 90, and you're in a seller's market. So we've had a lot of increases. I mean, Fountain Hills went up 34% over the last month. Paradise Valley, this was a few months ago, went up like 34% as well. I mean, it was just huge jumps. Scottsdale
it has to be luxury. It has to be, because I mean, even Cave Creek at 20% has some pretty high end luxury that's more I would say rural, but definitely a lot less busy,
right,
in certain areas,
right. But then here we are down here with Buckeye. Surprise isn't even on this. Oh, I'm sorry, Surprise right here. Surprise, Buckeye, Queen Creek, Maricopa, all of these, because they're on the way outskirts of town. There's a lot of new construction here. So again, if you're looking at resale's often competing with that new construction, which can be a challenge as well. So
which honestly, I think in some cases can be a far superior deal. I don't know who's watching this has gone and gotten a quote to build a pool, landscaping, all those things. But if you can get a resale that's in good shape for the right price, I would say there are many instances where you can get a superior deal if a seller's willing to work with you.
Here's what I want to say though, because a lot of people see those numbers and they're like, oh my gosh, it's turning. And now, Paradise Valley and Scottsdale and all these areas, they're in a seller's market. That does not mean that prices are starting to go up.
Right. And the other thing is that those numbers are not based on, say, Paradise Valley versus Avondale. It's based on the historicals of just that one of those 17 cities itself, right?
Right.
So like Avondale, for example, they're infamous, or that old Steve Martin movie, they're so famous, they're infamous, that getting like permits and getting things through the government supposedly takes a lot longer. So that scares a lot of builders away.
Right. So here's another chart on the Cromford Market Index that I wanted to show, because this was August 25th, just so you guys know. This is listings under contract. So this starts at the beginning of the year. The red is 2025. And we kind of tracked with 2024. And then right here, it started to go up, which we don't usually see in the summertime. So the only thing that this can point to is interest rate.
Yeah, and we know interest rates are going to have an impact. So as much as we've got these great algorithms to predict if next week is a bomb and all of a sudden the market reacts, I mean it's going to impact
right
impact listings for sure.
So things are shifting in our market again, as they kind of always do, but we are kind of riding that again, this downward trajectory just a bit, and this was showing kind of what our supply and demand was, because our demand just kind of kept falling and falling. It was kind of falling in line, but now our demand is starting to creep back up, which leads us back to a lot of these green arrows, which is changing a lot of these
some big numbers.
Yeah. So let's jump over to the mortgage rates, because this is what we just were talking about, how they are affecting things. So lower mortgage rates driving housing demand. We had our first 4-week run in 2025 of weekly and year-over-year growth in purchase applications. So it says mortgage rates have recently reached a year-to-date low. So the question is, has that already impacted the purchase application data? The answer is yes. It has if you look closely. Overall purchase application data has been positive for most of the year, particularly when comparing year-over-year results. However, now these mortgage rates have also boosted the weekly data, aligning with the year-over-year growth we have seen for most of the year. Since late 2022, when mortgage rates dipped below 6.64% and approached 6%, housing demands tend to increase. However, we have not been able to maintain this mortgage rate for an extended period. Purchase applications show 25% year-over-year growth. Matt, are you seeing that right now?
No, it's been a very strange time. Putting together purchase transactions the last month, talking to my colleagues, it's just been, I don't know why, extremely difficult. Like you said, you have people that are waiting. Also on the refi side too, where like they have 2 buy downs up, they're at high 6s on a government loan, a VA loan, or something like that. I'm like, well, let's just wait and see what happens. And I feel like that's the way it is with buyers right now.
Yeah.
So many sellers are just not living in reality yet.
I know it. And I feel like that is a big thing, because I've got a lot of buyers that are ready to buy.
And they're well qualified.
They are
the people that you want to accept an offer for, right?
They're not stretching themselves. They've got a good down payment, all of those things. And finding a house that is priced well, that has also been, maintained and cared well, has been tough.
Yeah, it has.
And I've had more buyers cancel after the inspection this summer, really, than I've had in a long, long time, because again, it's like we negotiate the price, everybody's happy at the price, kind of, and then we move forward with the inspection, and then it's like, well, items need to be addressed and fixed and things like that, and per our contract, sellers don't have to, and they make the choice of not really fixing much. Or like I've had one buyer that, it was a flip, and we found a bunch of things that should have probably been done during the flip, and it wasn't. And my client just said, you know what, if that's how the flip was done and this is what we found, I can't imagine what we haven't found.
No, and therefore the reality is, all real estate agents are not created the same. And a lot of realtors are not going to do their due diligence. They're going to get under contract on that home that's overpriced. It's not going to appraise.
Right.
You're going to spend money on inspections. You might spend money on appraisal potentially, and all of those things. And then all of a sudden you're stuck, because now you have a seller who doesn't want to sell anymore, and a buyer's out there time and money. So like, one example is one we just went through this last week, where you're like, hey, I'm all aboard if the value's there, but help me help you, the Jerry Maguire, like help me help you. Your lot's a little bit bigger. Great. But is that worth 200,000?
Right.
No. The answer is no.
No,
Right?
the answer is no.
Exactly.
Right. I know. So it's still a struggle. I mean, for a lot of people, for sellers too. I mean, I do have some empathy for sellers because I think that they, I know that sometimes they're not being told kind of what's out there.
No, they're not. I mean, where my empathy really lies are people that purchased a home in the last 3 years. It's very hard to really, cry for people that bought homes pre-pandemic. They all did extremely well. I mean, there's not many other investments in the world they could have gotten, and that gotten this type of return than having a home in Arizona, right, pre-pandemic.
Agreed. David, thank you for saying this because we were going to get there. But the September rate cut is already baked into today's rates, which is something that I have been telling every single person that I talk to, because they've all said, oh my gosh, this is so great. The rates are coming down. And when in September, the Fed cuts the rate again, it's just going to lower it again. And I have said to every one of them, I said, do not be surprised if and when that happens, that the rate actually goes up. I'm like, not by a ton, but it will go up a little bit because you're right. They've already baked it into the rates right now, 100%.
Yeah, no, let's get into that for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, a couple things. Obviously, what happened today was a kind of a key component, and that is the PCE, personal consumption expenditure. Oh, I said it right the first time. I always a couple times. And basically, it came in at expectations. So, inflation on that PCE is closer to 3%, 2.9. And what we've heard repeatedly from Powell and others is the expectation is what they want that number to be 2%. But the problem is we have all these other data points that are showing a weakening economy and, more importantly, weaker inflation, which that's one of Powell's mandates. He'll always tell you at every press conference is he wants to make sure that we have solid employment numbers in our country. So the thing we are watching next week on September 5th is the next BLS jobs report. So for those of you that remember, we just had one not too long ago, and that report was a bomb at the beginning of the month. We had all these revisions downward on top of a weak jobs report. And if you remember, these jobs numbers, they come out with an initial number, the market reacts to that number, and then when we have downward revisions, which we've had almost every single time, because I think it's 3 or 4 times, these numbers are revisited again and again, we have major downward revisions. And just for like a quick data point to tell you, if we look at the May and June jobs reports, which like the May report comes out beginning of June report comes out beginning of July. In May, they said that there were 144,000 job creations, and this is modeling. This is not hard numbers. 144,000 jobs, and then in June they said there was 147,000 jobs. Okay, so we're talking like 290,000 jobs. Now, when they did the revisions at the beginning of August, that 144,000 became 19,000. That June number became 14,000. So we lost overnight 258,000 jobs. So why does that matter? Because the market reacts on the first report. So on June 6th, mortgage-backed securities lost 52 basis points. What does that mean to you as a consumer? It means if I said, hey, your par rate is 6.5%, you don't have to pay any points. After that day, that same rate would have cost you an additional half a point. Okay. And then on July 3rd, happy Independence Day, everyone. That one cost us 71 basis points. So look at just those 2 reports, we lost 123 basis points, which we haven't even fully recovered all of those. So now when we have this report on the 5th, like you said, the Fed cut of 25 basis point is already baked into the 17th. That's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to change no matter what. What we're looking for is what happens on the next Fed meeting, which this jobs report is going to definitely help shape the narrative on if we do another cut and how much. And then more importantly, believe it or not, it's the actual comments from all the people at the Fed. There are 12 voting members, including Powell, which, side note, Jerome Powell does not just decide if we cut rates or not, guys. Like everyone, there's so much bad reporting on this. It's 12 people that vote on this. And yes, if you get rid of a person, add a person who wants more cuts, then yeah, that increases the odds of it. But they're already expecting unemployment to be 4.4%. We were almost there before. It was because they round up. It was just a smidge off, like 0.2 of a point. If we go to 4.5% and we see some other like increased initial jobless claims, things of that nature that are signs of a clear weakening economy, Powell is not going to ignore that. It's definitely going to, the bond market is going to love a 4.5% employment rate. So I would implore you guys that for those of you that are potentially in the market in the future, watch what happens in the morning on the 5th.
Well, and one of the things I feel like Powell has come out in every one of his speeches after is he always says what we are going to keep our eye on is unemployment.
Yeah, and he said it 1 jillion times. We are data dependent. We are data dependent. We are data dependent. But for the first time in his term, he's always been a look back guy. But he has been talking about potential inflation from tariffs, which even Powell is now acknowledging that might be more of a one-time cost rather than prolonged inflation. But the other interesting component of this is the favorite to take over for Powell. His name is Christopher Waller. He's one of our Fed governors, and he did an interview yesterday or today. And basically, he believes the Fed funds rate, which again, that's not mortgage rates, that's the number at which banks lend money to other banks, but it has a huge impact on so many things that we do, like student loans, credit cards, all that type of stuff. He thinks the neutral rate should be 3%, which right now we're at 4.375. So what he's basically saying is cutting a quarter, cutting a half, cutting 3/4, not where we're supposed to be. We should be, and he's definitely not saying to do it all at once. He's saying it needs to be a measured approach. But this guy is the current, service for betting, Poly Market, believes that Waller is going to be our next, head of the Fed, which would be next May. So as far as looking long-term ahead, there are several important people on board, most likely, that want to cut in the future.
Which, I mean, it'll be interesting. I talk to people, and some people feel like, Powell left the rates too low for too long, and now he's waiting too long to cut them again. And then I've got other people that are saying to me, we can't cut them because it's gonna, we're gonna fall into the inflation and the whole thing.
No, I don't think, and again, a lot of people want to turn all these things political, but the reality is most economists will acknowledge our policy would be considered restrictive right now. And there's definitely room to loosen. And I think even Powell would acknowledge, and he probably will at this next meeting, that he knows that we're still in a very restrictive, because he's been a very wait and see approach. Now, has he waited too long? I think history will probably show he did. And if you look at the history of the Fed, it is a boom and bust cycle, because it works both ways. When we were in the pandemic and everyone was getting, jillions of dollars in relief, and millionaire, musical artists were getting millions of dollars to keep their businesses open. Inflation was going to happen. They should have raised rates sooner, because they waited. That's where it felt like we were all of a sudden in the Jimmy Carter days, right? Where, peanut butter was $10. It's like, it seemed like it happened all at once. And there's a reason for that. It's because they waited way too long. And they probably waiting too long now. So
Keith Jacobs, rates need to be cut, audience. It's important for public sentiment and confidence in our economy.
Agreed. And consumer
really
sentiment is everything. And then if you look at the important earnings reports that you can check out are like Walmart, Home Depot, that will kind of tell you the pulse. And I think, if I recall, I think Walmart's earnings report was not amazing. Yeah,
I mean, and you got to think about, I mean, that they are everywhere, and a lot of people shop at Walmart. And their whole thing is that you come to us to sell your product in our store, and it's going to be the lowest cost that you can sell it anywhere. And I don't even think they let you sell it in other places. Some things they won't let you sell it in other places.
And for me, I'm always cognizant of, like, my office is in Central Phoenix. And I don't think of like the fancy Mastro steakhouses. I think about like just a normal like family restaurant where like a family could go for 4 and eat for $100. It feels like a lot of those that I've been in, like off of Camelback Road or Central, they're not super busy. I feel like right now there are plenty of people. I know it's summertime too, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, hey, I'd just rather stay at home and cook at home right now.
Yeah, I do think you have to say it is summertime. Our season is not in full swing, because I did just see an article. I think last year, the city of Scottsdale alone, it was like $37 million in tourism funds that came into the city because of everybody. So I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
Scottsdale, go to Scottsdale.
Scottsdale is Scottsdale. I know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, all right, we've got, I've got one more article that we're going to take a look at really quick. Let's get over here. And this talks about Phoenix market is stuck in a cruel summer. Housing market, I said Phoenix tonight. Housing market is stuck in a cruel summer as buyers hold back and delisting surge, but a sign of hope emerges. And I just want to say this, because I did, I think I did a video, a live, one of the last ones, and we talked about listings coming off the market. And there are sellers that they've been pulling their house off the market because they can't get what they want. And, their house, their choice. But I think some of those sellers are going to kind of come back thinking when our season hits, thinking they can put it back at the same price without doing anything to it. And one of the things that I often talk to sellers about is that if you've done that, and if that's kind of your approach that you're going to take, we have what's called a history tab. We can see every time that it's been listed, all the prices, all the price reductions, all of that. And it's now syndicated also out to Zillow and Realtor.com and all those places. So the consumers can see it too. So you're not fooling anybody, and buyers are savvy. They see that stuff and they go, why? Did they do something to it?
What's wrong with it? Yeah,
well, if you're going to go put it back on the market at a higher price, the buyer often did they put a new roof on it? What did they do to it to make it now more money? Because if our market stays relatively the same, then there would be no reason to raise the price unless you've done some more improvements to it. So just a side note. With Labor Day fast approaching, home buyers, sellers, and builders are all reckoning with what has proven to be a cruel summer for the U.S. housing market, defined by frustrated expectations. This summer, would-be buyers and sellers found themselves in a stalemate, with neither side willing to budge, but for a different reason. The result, nationwide housing inventory has climbed for 21 straight months, while sales sit at their lowest level in decades, according to the July Housing Market Trends report from Realtor.com. It's the Anna Karenina housing market. Everyone is unhappy, but each in their own way. Buyers face steep affordability barriers. Sellers are losing market power, but are futilely resisting. Buyers are now pulling back, even as the nation remains short of 4 million homes, and regional markets are dysfunctional in their own unique ways. Writes a report which offers an overview of disappointing summer selling season, that any steps forward has been followed by a step backward, leaving the housing market essentially deadlocked. That's pretty much the way that I think everyone feels. On one hand,
go ahead.
In a fair deal,
if if someone's really happy, it's called not a fair deal. No one's supposed to be thrilled in a fair negotiation, right?
Yeah. 100%. You can upload Zillow link to AI and it will do that quick analysis, right? I mean, the thing is, you're not hiding it from anybody.
Cool. That's pretty smart to do that.
Yeah. On one hand, according to The Economist, booming inventory has made it the most buyer-friendly summer in years, but economic uncertainty and affordability challenges have kept house hunters firmly on the sidelines. On the other hand, longer time on the market has prompted many sellers to delist their properties, denying would-be buyers fresh options that might have drawn them back into the market. And the builders are pulling back due to waning buyer demand, and in doing so, deepening the nation's persisting housing shortage. The result is a market in status, grinding through a cruel summer. So let's take a closer look at what feels like the pain. Yeah, we can get into this. This just talks about affordability and things like that. But I thought the very beginning part of that is, I feel like, what every buyer and seller, excuse me, that I've spoken with over the last probably even 5 months has felt. And every one of my buyers, when they're just, we've made an offer and the seller hasn't agreed and we're just kind of stuck in that limbo, or it's, we're looking at these houses and they're scratching their head going, gosh, this house still needs so much work and they want this much money for it. And every time I tell them, I'm like, you guys are not the only ones that are feeling this. You're not. They all think, was it me? Am I being too picky? Am I not? And it's not. They're not the only ones that are feeling this. It's not just here. It's everywhere. And it's hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard for buyers. It's hard for sellers. And I mean, the only thing that I can do is offer, commiseration with that, because, I always tell them, like, we'll find it. We'll find the house. We have to be patient. But we'll find it. But it doesn't make it any easier. And again, you look back at the times during COVID when, things were selling so fast and the whole thing, and everyone thinks, I want to get back to that. It's like, well, that wasn't really easy either. And there was a lot of people that I feel like bought this, to your point, you feel empathetic to the people that bought within the last 3 years. I feel like some of those people that bought during COVID times, I've seen some of those houses come back on the market. And they're houses at back busy roads. They're houses that weren't in optimal locations, or something was kind of, innately wrong with them to begin with, but they bought it anyway because that was all those are the only options they had. And now they're trying to sell it for an even higher price. And I'm like, good luck.
Yeah. And they paid 25, 50 grand over list.
I know. I know. I have one of my clients, they literally sold their house during that time, and they backed 2 major roads, and they got multiple offers. They sold it for a lot more money, and it just came back on the market. And I sent it to them and I said, do you want to buy your old house? And she said, holy cow, I cannot believe they're selling it. And they're selling it for so much more money. And it's just going to sit there. Okay. It's just going to sit because it's backing 2 major roads. They chose to sell at the optimal time. Unfortunately, these guys are not.
And how many listing agents do you have their name and number going, hey, let me check in with you in another 30 days and another 30 days, where your sellers are being completely unrealistic, right? Like,
right.
Hey,
I've got a few. I mean, I have probably 3 buyers right now that we're just kind of watching some houses, and we're just kind of seeing them. And I check in with the listing agent every once in a while. I'm like, hey, seller ready to take my client's offer? We're still interested. And they go, no, not yet. And I'm like, okay. There's a time. I mean, there's carrying costs. There's a time costs money.
Yeah. Opportunity cost for sure.
Yeah. So it just gets crazy. So, I mean, we could be, again, looking at all the data from Tina, from the Cromford report. I mean, we could be at that tipping point as the Cromford Market Index starts to rise in certain areas. I mean, we could be at that point of, like, are we at the bottom, or is the next 3 months, is that the bottom? Like, that's the question.
There's also an expiration date on the lock-in effect. So now we're at 3 years of like rates up 7s and up and down.
Yeah.
I mean, people can stomach a 12-month cycle, a 24, maybe in a 36, but at some point people have to move on with their lives and realize, hey, I'm never getting that 3.5%, 3% rate again.
Right.
can I stomach 6? Or
Right.
who knows, maybe 5.75, right? We don't know, obviously, what's going to happen here.
Well, and that's what, I mean, we've talked about this before. It's now is a great time to buy if you can afford it. I don't ever tell anybody to go buy it if you can't afford it, and if you're going to be stretched, don't do it. Rent. That's the smart thing for you to do. But if you can afford it, now is not a bad time to buy. Again, it might take a little time to find the right house, but now is
Right.
still a good time to buy. And you might be surprised when you look back and you go, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I bought then because that was the bottom." I mean, I'm not telling you to right now is the bottom, but could we be close to it? We could. We could.
Yeah, I agree, exactly. Because, for example, if the fifth happens the way it could, is all of a sudden you hear all the news outlets, everything be talking nonstop about rates the next week. So, end of September, we could be seeing activity like buyers that I've talked to a year ago that are like, okay, I'm considering it now.
Right. Considering it. That's the thing. Like I
Right.
keep saying that to some buyers and they're like, "Great, so the prices are going to start, skyrocketing again." I'm like, "That was so rare. That was an anomaly what happened."
Right.
That's not going to happen again. But will prices start to go back up eventually? Yeah, they will.
Eventually, yeah, but so many professionals have been doing this long enough where they've been a part of both cycles, right? They've only been in an appreciation cycle, so they just don't understand.
Right. That's it. I mean, I don't even know how many cycles I've been through now. It's been a lot, but yeah, it's been a lot. But that's the thing. I mean, you just have to pay attention to it because and this, for me, I know this sounds crazy and it's going to be, trust me, I look at the data, so don't take it that this is all I do. But there's sometimes when I'm out and I'm like, I feel it. I can just feel it in my gut. I see what's happening. I can sense some of the things that are going on, and I'm like, stuff's shifting right now. And I'm right now. I feel it a little bit, not a ton. So that's why I say, like, are we at the bottom? I don't know that we are at the bottom yet, but could it be here in the next couple months? It could.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see if we go back to 25,000 listings.
Right. Well, even that, I mean, we need 25,000 listings that are priced well.
Yeah.
Priced well. So
30,000 maybe. I don't know.
Right. Well, it's Labor Day. I hope everyone has a great long weekend. Go do something fun and stay cool. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.